There are a lot of tools to improve one's physical ability to reach a goal in fitness and sports. One of many tools are resistance bands that you can find at a lot of gyms or that you can buy online. Among those online, there's one brand that got my attention, and they're called Dopamineo resistance bands. Before this video continues, I should say that I'm not paid or sponsored to say anything about this brand of resistance bands. I have bought these bands for my own money, and you will get a 100% honest review. So if you are interested in buying these yourself, you will get the best answer here if these resistance bands can help you towards your goals of fitness and sports. Now, an important question to ask first and foremost, especially if you're new to resistance bands, does resistance bands work? To make a long story short, yes. A systematic review and a meta-analysis showed that with 8 studies that could last from 4 to 12 weeks, where in some of them they trained 2 times a week and in other studies they trained 5 times a week, where they could be as young as 15 years old all the way up to 88 years old, showed that there was no superiority between using elastic bands, free weights, and machines in terms of improving strength gains for both the upper and lower limbs respectively. What is even more important is that of those 8 studies in the meta-analysis, there were 2 studies that stand out from the other 6, which is that one of them had a study with 24 male soccer football players, and the other one had 23 females who were considered physically fit. In both studies, they were in their young 20s. So if you're trained or untrained, you will still see the same results from resistance bands that you'll see from free weights and machines. Quick side note, Lubin's study demonstrated a lower dropout rate in exercise performed with elastic resistance training in adolescents. This might be by chance, since the population in that study was with 15-year-olds, but resistance bands could be more fun to use for some people than free weights and machines. So not only do resistance bands work, they might even be more fun to use for some people that think the gym is a bit boring or not of their interest. I bought a pair of middle resistance bands with ankle straps and a bag around 6 months ago. One of the first things I noticed with them is that they are heavier for resistance bands than you would have expected. That is because unlike other resistance bands that are hollow in the middle, Dopamineo bands have a fully structural tube from one end to the other. That makes the band very durable to the point where no matter how much I stretched it, I would always feel like it's strong and it can go a little further. If you know that feeling with normal resistance band, where at one point you think, can I keep going or should I stop because the band will snap? You might also get that same experience with Dopamineo bands in the beginning, but the more you use them, the more faith and trust you have in them. I have tested its limits and it's not going to snap, no matter how much I stretch it. So don't worry, you're not going to end up on a YouTube video or a TikTok clip where this happens. And I use them for many things at many places. Because of what the bands are made of and that it has a fully structural tube, Dopamineo claims that it makes the band heat and water resistant. That is not something I have tested and have made a comparison of, but what I have tested is just how easy it is to set up. For the band itself, if you have something to wrap it around with, you're pretty much good to go and can start training. When it comes to the ankle straps, they're high quality, not too heavy, and easy to put on. It can be a little bit tricky to attach the resistance band to the ankle straps in the beginning, but once you learn it, it becomes second nature. If you want to know how to set everything up, ankle straps, how to make 2 into 1, put it around your upper body or around your hips and more, they give you guidance on their website. Just log in and boom, it's all there. Dopamineo also gives you access to a lot of exercise specifically for their bands, all the way from how to set it up and for more traditional strength training and overall fitness. They don't give you an excuse for not knowing how to use them. In my own experience, I was adjusting my training program and I needed a back exercise. I just logged in, found an exercise I liked, and used that in my program. Because of the material the band is made of, it doesn't irritate the skin like other resistance bands, which you don't think about until you compare them with normal resistance bands, and then it becomes noticeable. One thing that is really great about this band is just how much it can stretch out, giving the same band many levels of difficulty. It all depends on how far away you stand. You can start with no resistance and have a little resistance at the end, or start with a lot of resistance and have even more at the end. They have many different bands depending on your training experience, your weight, and what you're training for. That means if you took a 72 kilo male with 7 years of strength training experience, like me, that he was going to buy a band, then the lighter the band is, the more speed he will develop. And the heavier you go, the more strength it will be. Somewhere in the middle, it will be mostly power development. The thing is, you are going to develop all those three, both speed, power, and strength, since that's what the band is made for and helps to develop. But again, it depends on the previous factors. How far you stand away from where you attach the band, your height, your weight, your gender, your training experience, etc. and what band you type. So here's a scale you can use to figure out which band is best suited for you. Something that you might have noticed by now is that you don't focus on reps, but training with time when exercise with Dopamineo bands. It helps to develop both your anaerobic and your aerobic abilities depending on how you use them. For example, if you do very explosive, 100% fast movement for short duration, you'll build mostly anaerobic effects. If it's still explosive and fast movements, and you try to do it for as long as possible until failure, that means you slow down in speed, for example, then it builds mostly anaerobic capacity. As for aerobic, you can do very light movement to increase blood flow after a hard workout to improve recovery. You can do a moderate intensity to develop anaerobic capacity, and you can do this by intervals. For example, do 3 minutes of work with a 1 minute break. Just make sure you have the same intensity throughout the whole work duration. And lastly, you have high intensity. That could be something as going 45 seconds all out work with a 15 seconds break for 3 to 5 rounds. Or more traditionally, you can do 20 seconds all out work and a 10 seconds break for 6 to 8 rounds. Quick thing to note, in general, to develop anaerobic ability, either effect or capacity, it has to be very intense for a short duration, so that we don't use oxygen as an energy source, which is mostly the first 10 seconds to a minute of work. For aerobic, we have to make sure that the work is longer, or at least as long as the break where we use oxygen as an energy source. Dopamineo for Muay Thai and technique. When it comes to the bands, there's a lot of exercise they give you for grappling and fitness, but not a whole lot for striking. But in the time that I have used the bands, I found a few ways that I like to use them to improve my Muay Thai game. For punching, attach the band to something stable. Make sure the band is attached to head height or below. Look away from where the band is attached. Pick a range that fits your level. You can change the level as you progress with all of these exercises. Hold the band so it comes out from the top of your fist. That way we will turn our hand so that 2 knuckles that we want to punch with is put into focus. Take your stand and punch your 1-2 in a consistent rhythm. Keep a good balance and stay in the center as you punch your 1-2. You can also do the jab cross drill that Dopamineo gives you. Again, the only thing I would change about that drill is to hold the band so it comes out from the top of my fist. Hook. Same setup as before, this time face the band. Use one at a time, preferably the one on top. Wrap the band around your fist. If you hold the band with your front arm, remember to twist with the front foot and the hip as you turn, and the same with your back hand. Twist your back foot and hip. Remember to keep the opposite leg steady. As you hook, keep your fist and elbow at the same height. Hold the band into your body as you hook. Uppercut. If possible, adjust the setup so that the bands are side by side instead of on top of each other. Be light on your feet and place most of your weight on your toes. Bounce up and down as you throw your uppercuts. Again, pull in towards your body as you throw your uppercuts. Elbows. Stand away from the band again, with your elbows the same level as your chin and hands up high. Push with your shoulder and shoulder blade away from your body as you twist. Aim with the elbow and hit the tip of it into your target. It's a short distance, so remember not to pull your arm back before striking. You can use the uppercut drill that Dopamineo gives you to improve your elbows that you throw upwards. Sweep. I'm not too familiar with sweep, and the only sweep I could mimic is where you are in a clinch with an opponent / training body, and you take your foot out to the side and sweep them there. So we're going to do that. Get into your stand, put one leg out to the side, and just shortly after twist your upper body up and back, like you were going to throw a ball over your shoulder and behind your head. The next two exercises requires that you also have the ankle straps. Parrying a kick. Start in your stand with feet in line with one another. As you lift your leg up, remember to point your leg 45 degrees out. Lift your leg high enough so that your knee is in front of your elbow. Keep your upper body upright throughout the whole movement. To make the exercise harder, as soon as you land with your foot, immediately lift your leg back up in the same fashion it went down. Do not kick or cheap, but knee with them. With kick, cheap, and knee, with all of those three, at one point they will have the same position in the execution. So what I want you to do is raise your knee up and push and twist with your hips forward. Keep your hands up high to protect you throughout the whole movement. Remember to stand on your toes on the supporting leg and keep your foot as close to your leg as possible with the leg you're kneeing with. If you get good at kneeing, you'll get good at kicking and cheaping. Because if you kick or cheap with the bands, you will develop a bad habit of producing force where you're supposed to be relaxed. That being because the band is stretched so much that you are forced to tighten your leg, but not when you have to knee. To develop your knee game, and your kicking and cheaping will develop too. There are a lot of exercises that can work your push strength, your pull strength, your leg strength, your hand speed, your footwork, your rotation abilities, and more. What I mentioned before was more for training technique for Muay Thai specifically with Dopamineo bands. I'll make a YouTube short of a workout or maybe two for both Muay Thai technique and for strength and conditioning that you can use as inspiration. Conclusion. Dopamineo resistance bands are the best on the market for improving your fitness and sport. Its usability, its versatility, and improving any athletic ability of your interest is what makes Dopamineo bands worth the money. But a very important thing is that if you want to get good at Muay Thai, for example, you have to practice Muay Thai. For example, like hitting pads, sparring, or training combos on a heavy back. Dopamineo bands can only help you go so far if you don't actually practice the skill the sport requires you to do. It is one of, if not the best tool for any explosive athlete to take it to the next level for their sport of choice. I would absolutely recommend Dopamineo bands to anyone who is looking for a fun, effective, high quality, and a useful resistance band to be better, faster, and more explosive in their goals of fitness and sport. So thank you Dopamineo bands for making me better. And thank you for watching the video.